For all of us, our teenage years are a short yet defining period of our lives. Years that are equally exciting, stressful and dramatic, but all too fleeting. A 7-year gateway to adulthood. A lead-in to a new beginning, filled with new experiences and new responsibilities. For a few unfortunate souls, however, their teenage years are not the beginning of the journey. They are the end. The case of Leanne Tiernan contains distressing details and information that may be unsuitable for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Here at Dark Case Documentaries, we release at least one new true crime documentary every week. Please consider joining our quickly growing community by subscribing. Please also consider helping us in our work by supporting us on Patreon, link in description. Thank you all for being here, you are greatly appreciated. Our love and respect goes out to all those that knew and loved Leanne. Leanne Tiernan was born on the 27th of September 1984 in Leeds, West Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. Leanne grew up surrounded by strong women. Her mother Sharon and sister Michelle used to be taken for days out to Ilkley, a spa town also in West Yorkshire, by grandmother Hilary. Sister Michelle was the quieter, more tomboyish of the pair, and Leanne was more sociable, traditionally girly, and more delicate in her way. In the words of her grandmother, Leanne was very careful. If she thought she might get hurt, she wouldn't do it. She was quite a contented child. You didn't have to always be doing something with her. She was quite happy. Her mother Sharon said that Leanne was a tidy girl who liked to have her space just how she liked it. She said she didn't care about the rest of the house, but her bedroom was always dusted and polished and vacuumed. As Leanne hit her teenage years, she grew into a bright and fun-loving girl. A teenager that still enjoyed spending time with her family. She was known as easy to talk to. She got on with almost everyone. At a time where many teenagers drift away from their family, her mother said of her, she was very thoughtful. She knew everybody's birthdays, and she used to panic if she didn't have enough money to go and buy somebody a card. She was very, very loyal to her friends, always put them first. If anyone was having a party, she liked to be there. She liked dancing. Leanne's outgoing ways meant she also enjoyed doing some amateur modelling through her teenage years. In an interview, her sister Michelle said about her, she made everyone she met feel welcome. She had a way with people. By November the 26th in the year 2000, Leanne was now 16 years old and living in Bramley, West Yorkshire. Bramley was a small residential district of West Leeds, just a few miles from the city. Although small, it had a strong sense of community. Leanne was attending West Leeds High School and approaching her GCSE exams in just a few months' time. Leanne now had a serious boyfriend. He was 19 years old. His name was Wayne Keeley, a man that worked as a care assistant. With Christmas just a month away, Leanne and her friend Sarah Whitehouse, aged 15, had spent the day shopping for presents for their loved ones in Leeds city centre. The pair returned to Bramley on the bus, as they always did. Upon leaving the bus together, Leanne and Sarah reached the point where they were to split up, at the corner of Howley Lane, to return to their respective homes. Sarah watched as Leanne walked down Howley Gill, an unlit path that passed through some wooded wasteland. Leanne walked out of Sarah's view and the two continued on home. Sarah called Leanne's house when she got home and was shocked to learn that she wasn't there. When Leanne's mother Sharon called her mobile phone at 5:20 p.m. to inquire about her location, after just 4 rings the phone was disconnected. Sharon continued to try to contact Leanne. Having no luck in doing so, she called the police at 7 p.m. and reported her daughter missing. Sharon had a bad feeling. She said, if Leanne wasn't home by 10 o'clock, she won't be back. Detective Superintendent Chris Gregg of the West Yorkshire Police promptly launched a missing persons investigation. As the investigation gained speed, it grew to be one of the biggest that West Yorkshire Police had ever conducted, involving up to 200 officers and hundreds of volunteers. More than 1,400 house-to-house inquiries were made. 800 houses along her likely route home after splitting with Sarah, a route named the Red Route by police, 800 sheds, garages and outbuildings, as well as 150 businesses within a half-mile of Howley Hill were all searched. In conjunction with the investigation, 140 males from the area were questioned by the police, and as part of the investigation, 12 search warrants were performed at various locations around Leeds. Between Spring Garden Lock and Bramley Falls, a 3-mile stretch of the Leeds and Liverpool Canal was drained to a depth of 1 metre and was then searched by the West Yorkshire Police Underwater Search Squad. Yorkshire Water, the utility company, was contacted to assist in locating abandoned drains and wells. The search team also inspected 32 drain shafts in the vicinity. To enable police to investigate all bins in the area for evidence, residential rubbish collection was briefly suspended. British Waterways, British Transport Police, the Ministry of Defence's Aerial Division and the Police National Search Centre all provided support to the investigation. In an effort to jog the memories of prospective witnesses to Leanne's movements, police conducted a reenactment of the girl's final movements on December 3rd, 2000. Leanne's friend Sarah Whitehouse and Leanne's elder sister Michelle bravely performed the role of the girls. Detectives also texted Leanne's cell phone, which was off at the time but had briefly been turned on November 27th, 2000. Leanne was also featured on milk cartons distributed in Iceland grocery shops across the country. A local businessman also generously offered a £10,000 reward for information that led to Leanne's safe return. Although there were claims of sightings in Doncaster and Blackpool, there had been no conclusive reports of sightings 9 months later. Leanne's boyfriend Wayne Keeley publicly begged her to contact him. Wayne's pleading was unsuccessful. Police made an E-fit facial composite of a male who had been observed walking a dog just before Leanne vanished. The E-fit was released to the public on December 4th, 2000. This was around 2 weeks since Leanne was last seen. The attached description went as follows: 5 feet 8 inches tall and of stocky build, with a round reddish face that may possibly be scarred, wearing a black woolen hat, a 3/4 length waterproof jacket and dirty jeans. Almost 10 months passed before there was any meaningful progress with Leanne's case. Now on Monday, August 20th, 2001, a man named Mark Bisson was walking his 2 dogs through Linley Woods, a forested area in North Yorkshire. Mark Bisson discovered a body of a young woman. The body was placed into a duvet cover with a flowery design. Underneath that, the body was wrapped in 9 green plastic rubbish bags fastened with twine, and a black bin bag was fastened around her head with a leather dog collar. The police had to employ the use of fingerprints to identify the remains. 2 long days later, on August 22nd, 2001, the body was confirmed to be that of Leanne. Leanne's black boots and a less coat were not discovered with the body. These same plastic cable ties had also been used to bind her hands. She was also wearing a scarf that was described as dark in colour around her neck. The ponytail she had before she vanished was still in place, and her hair was secured with the same band and hair clips. Detective Superintendent Gregg said that the missing persons investigation had now changed to a murder probe. The fact that Leanne's fingerprints were identifiable after 10 months may have surprised you. Forensic specialists speculated, based on Leanne's body condition, that she had been kept in cold storage or a freezer shortly following her death, up until a few weeks before the body was discovered. Police issued a public plea to anyone who may have recently visited Linley Woods, or who may have knowledge of others who frequent the area, to come forward and to get in touch. In response to West Yorkshire Police's request for information, 2 previous girlfriends of a man named John Taylor, who had met him through Lonely Hearts columns, independently provided the police with his identity. They both said that he had driven by the woods in their company and boasted of often hunting there. The investigation delved into Taylor's past. Within a mile of where Leanne was last seen alive, John Taylor, born August 27th, 1956, worked as a parcel delivery driver for Parcel Force and resided in the same housing estate as Leanne, less than a mile away. In 1977, John got married to Janet. The couple moved into their home on Cockshot Drive in May 1982 after having 2 children together. Taylor's house-proud wife grew unhappy with the marriage. The dissolution of the marriage was partly as a result of John's fixation with animals. John lived alone since his wife divorced him in 1996. John Taylor was well known in the local area. He was referred to as the pet man in the community because he had several dogs, ferrets, other pets, sold pet food, and was a noted poacher. Taylor also kept owls, which he fed baby chicks. He would buy the chicks in bulk, and he needed multiple large chest freezers to store them. His sole prior conviction was for stealing a suit at the age of 15. His acquaintances thought he was trustworthy, and overall was described as average. Taylor was a regular user of Lonely Hearts adverts, the police learned. The police were able to identify the women he had spoken to in this way through his telephone records, and they started interviewing them. One former girlfriend of Taylor revealed that he enjoyed tying up and locking women in a cupboard. Another said that Taylor had admitted to having a penchant for bondage, whips and ties, and that he intended to use cable ties to bind the woman's daughter and engage in sexual activity with her. One of Taylor's former lovers, who had also lived with him for a short time, admitted to the police that she had gone to Linley Woods with him frequently while they were dating, and that she had ended their relationship because of his bondage obsession. When questioned by authorities about how Taylor would tie her up, she detailed his method of tying her hands behind her back by first attaching a plastic cable tie over each of her wrists, and then connecting them together with a third cable tie. This was noticed to be a similar manner in which Leanne was discovered. Additionally, she claimed that Taylor kept a collection of these cable ties, which he got from work, in a drawer behind his bed. However, these character witnesses would not be reliable or convincing enough evidence to move the case towards a conviction. Investigators now look deeper into the items that were found along with Leanne's body. A Nottingham-based business produced a leather dog collar that was discovered on Leanne's body and was found to be distributed to 220 different wholesalers. Detective Constable David Wilson started getting in touch with each of these wholesalers to find out whether they had any documentation of sales to people in the Leeds region. A Liverpool-based mail order business called Pets Pajamas was the 112th business contacted. They acknowledged making 3 transactions in the region and sent investigators an email with a list of their customers. One of the customers' names was Taylor, the name given to the police by multiple women. Detective Superintendent Gregg made the connection. Taylor was very much a person of interest. The police delved even deeper. A hair that did not belong to Leanne was discovered on the scarf that had been put around her neck by forensic scientists from the Forensic Science Service, or FSS. The FSS used mitochondrial DNA testing inside of the hair shaft, since standard DNA testing was unable to recover a DNA profile from the hair's root. Taylor's DNA profile was compared to the evidence. The hair was a match. An FSS investigation of the twine used to bind Leanne revealed that it was a special kind of twine that could only be produced by a business in Devon, England. A tiny one-off batch of the products were typically exclusively sent to the Ministry of Defence, but had subsequently been made available to the general public for use as rabbit traps. Similar twine was later discovered at Taylor's house, a man that was proud of his poaching. Testing showed that this belonged to the same batch. Another match, and yet more evidence. It was discovered that the yellow cable ties recovered on Leanne's body were made by an Italian business. They sold 99% of them to the Royal Mail, a division of which was Taylor's employer, Parcelforce. When Taylor's residence was examined by authorities, the identical cable ties were discovered, just as his ex-partner had stated. The evidence was building. In Taylor's house, they also discovered green plastic that matched the material that had been used to wrap Leanne's body. The FSS regarded the red nylon carpet fibre traces found on Leanne's body as being particularly identifiable. This was due to the odd process that had been used to dye the fibre. When authorities examined Taylor's residence, the carpets were missing. When probed, they found that he had very recently removed all of the carpeting and disposed of it in a fire. However, fortunately for the case, unfortunately for Taylor, tiny fragments of carpet fibres that matched those on the body were discovered stuck on nails used to secure floorboards. A forensic pollen specialist that the FSS hired found pollen traces on Leanne's skin, in her hair and in her nasal cavity. With this evidence, they were able to match plants from Taylor's garden to this pollen. This suggested that Leanne had been there right before her death. Just over 2 months since Leanne's remains were discovered, Taylor was detained on October the 16th, 2001. On suspicion of murder. Police cordoned off his home, garden and a section of waste ground behind his property. Police detectives and forensic experts descended on the property for a 10-day in-depth search. The home contained 3 sizable chest freezers, large enough to contain a body. The garden held some horrifying secrets that did not help the case for his innocence. Fewer than a mile away from Leanne's home, Taylor had scores of dead animals buried on his property, along with a mass grave of ferrets. They also discovered a number of deceased dogs. Some had brutally fractured skulls. The evidence against Taylor was becoming increasingly overwhelming. The interrogation began. Taylor confessed to abducting Leanne. He said that he hadn't been to Howley Gill in a long time, but he just happened to be there on the day that Leanne vanished. An unfortunate coincidence. He said that Leanne walked past him, and in an instant he decided to act on his impulsions. He said he grabbed her from behind, he took his jacket and wrapped it around Leanne's head. Perhaps at this moment Taylor thought he may let Leanne live, so stopping her from getting a good look at him would be beneficial. Taylor said that he tied Leanne's hands behind her back with a dog lead. He then forced her to walk to his house on the adjacent Cockshot Drive. After that, he dragged her into his bedroom. He then pushed Leanne onto the bed. 16-year-old Leanne fought for her life against Taylor. Taylor said that as Leanne struggled, she fell off the bed, hitting her head on the floor. Taylor asserted that she died as a result of this accident. The scarf that was found around Leanne's neck, Taylor said, was used to move the body. Taylor said that he panicked and dumped Leanne's body in the woods. However, the police and prosecution asserted a different course of events to Taylor. They said he bound her hands behind her back in the bedroom in anticipation of R-wording her, before using a cable tie as a ligature to strangle her to death when her blindfold came off and Leanne was able to look into the face of her killer. When authorities questioned Taylor about his story of transferring Leanne's body to Lindley Woods immediately after the murder and during a panic, he changed his story. He said that in reality he had concealed her first beneath some pallets in his garden before then placing her inside his sofa. Taylor, when asked by police why he did what he did, he responded, "I have no idea." He said that he had been drinking and he snapped. On the 15th of February 2002, John Taylor appeared before Mr. Justice Poole at Leeds Crown Court and entered a plea of guilty. John Taylor was subsequently convicted with Leanne's murder. The judge who delivered the punishment, Mr. Justice Astill, stated, "You were not acting on impulse. You chose a secluded place and a vulnerable young girl who suited your purposes. This was as cold and calculating as can be imagined. You must expect to spend the rest of your life in custody." Historic DNA evidence has since forced the reopening of 10 cases of assault, R-word and murder around the UK in connection with Taylor. John Taylor currently resides in HM Prison,